So how does self-insured reporting partner with TPAs? That's what we're going to cover in this very quick session. Essentially look at this as an addendum to the overall demo. You can come to the main website, selfinsuredreporting.com. This section that we're in right now, that you've reached the TPA section, but if you click on demo, there's an on-demand demo that's been recorded from the perspective of the broker. That's very important, I think, to watch. I speak specifically to benefit brokers and why it's important to them. And obviously, it'll make sense as to why it makes sense to you as well. And so, but why specifically is it that we've been very successful at partnering with TPAs? I want to show you something. Just to give you an example, I just picked one email. I could have picked lots of emails, but this has been the consensus for a very long time in regard to the reporting that TPAs provide their accounts and their brokers. This is just simply an email that I received from one broker. Again, I could have showed lots of different examples here. But they were talking about how they're just rolling out self-funded and they have some accounts, and all of their current self-funded accounts have a blank as a solution, which is good for claims only. This is a claim analytics vendor on the market that is highly well known, and it talks about how it's good for claims only. I'm going to talk about that for a second, but then this next point. And of course, the carrier or TPA reporting, which is terrible. Okay, this is a general statement because, frankly, it's a general consensus. The TPA reporting is frankly terrible. Now, one of the things I want to do is tell you what is meant by that. I was an employee benefit broker for 15 years prior to selling an agency and taking a couple years off, building a benefit technology company that later spun off and built other organizations, this being one. I'm the president of this company and the founder, and that's why I'm sitting here talking to you, is that I have some perspective that other people might not have. And I can tell you that this is the absolute case. And what you end up finding is that the broker takes your reporting and they end up making their own reporting. I'm going to show you an example of just some reporting. I'm going to just press pause and take a clip of it and show it to you and talk to you about it. Okay, this is just an example of we see things like this. We see actually data that's a lot worse than this. And as a TPA, you might look at this and go, all right, well, you have to record the incurred month, for medical or pharmacy claims. And then down here, you certainly probably have the paid. And then you have the numbers. What's wrong with this? This is fine. This shows the client that this was the amount, $80,237 for this type. And down here, we probably have some different types of enrollment or whatever. This is kind of terrible to say, but a lot of times first of all, this is very hard to understand, and brokers are almost never going to use this. You'll find the top tier brokers are never going to use your reporting. Quite frankly, they're trying to keep themselves hired, not you. That's their prerogative, and they're the ones who are running the relationship with the client. And the client is used to what they're provided by consultants, and they look at this, and it gets a big X, y'all. I hate to tell you that, and I'm going to show you why. Okay. Whenever you start comparing that to the types of reporting that brokers currently do, like this is our current platform. Again, you can see everything in detail from the demo section, but that looks a whole lot different than this, okay? As you can agree, right? Your logo, your colors, your everything completely branded. You start looking at here, this is just a bunch of data that doesn't do anything. This is just doing the dead minimal. This looks like something we could have done 20 years ago very easily. This is where life is, y'all. And so, this, when you start looking at budget type reports and claims trend reports and projections for the remainder of the contract year and renewal projections, I should have picked a darker color. I don't like that light blue, but I digress. Midpoint to midpoint underwriting built into it. This is the kind of stuff that brokers are doing they're taking your data, this stuff right here, and then they're making it usable, because this doesn't mean anything to anybody, but other type of reporting does. And that's ultimately what it comes down to, is usable type data. As an example, being able to say, well, how is the full year operated? Our TPA partners typically really like the aggregate reporting as well, being able to see the enrollment and how this is automated directly out of the system, can be branded to you or branded to the broker or branded to the client. It doesn't matter. Now, our system is able to do some of the stuff that other people's is not able to do. Now, if you remember in that email, right, it said it's good for claims only. All right, a lot of the reporting that's done. And certainly almost every claim analytics system out there, with the exception of us, and I think that there may be another one, but quite frankly, I don't know if there even is. They're only looking at claims, you guys. And guess what? When a client looks at this, as this is a sample client, right? $1.4 million of this plan year, almost 20% of their cost is fixed cost. So if they're only looking at the claims, they're never going to have right reporting ever. The other thing too is those claims-focused analytics systems almost always book the claims coming into the system based upon claim incurred date. Now, anybody who's ever sold employee benefits knows the only time you ever look at that is whether or not something qualifies for a reinsurance contract. That's it. A CFA or CFO rather, for a company who this is their money, they're in control of making sure it's spent properly, they're not looking at incurred dates almost ever. They're looking at paid. They want to know what was paid this month. How much were the costs this month? Does it reconcile back out? And what you're going to find is if you're trying to use a claim analytic type system that's bringing in only claims, they're even booking it by the wrong date, which shows you how little they know about selling employee benefits and what life is like at the point of sale. And so that's what we do. You know, our system brings in the data. We get the data feeds directly from the TPA and the PBM. We get enrollment. More and more TPAs are starting to partner with us for to use our system. We have the ability to build out single sign-on. We have the ability for these colors and logo to become yours. We're not interested in our brand. We're trying to make our clients successful. And then we give robust reporting. We also do custom reporting if there's stuff that you like that you don't necessarily see in ours. But this is the plan level details. This is the kind of stuff that the other systems are never going to hardly be able to do, because if you're not pulling in the details of the fixed cost and the reinsurance and everything, it's impossible. You're never going to be able to create an overall report that's going to show, okay, well, what were the total cost? What was the employee cost? What are the fixed costs? You can't do that. You don't have the data. So what they end up doing is they focus on our other side of the system, the claims, what we call claims details. And these systems do a good job looking at these factors and being able to see which conditions are driving cost, selecting those factors and seeing how the services break out, seeing what are the age range of these people. You can see this is a demo. Generating reports off of this. This is all in our system too. We have this, but y'all, we have the analytic data. I know how often people come into this side. This is the report, on demand, being able to create that type of report branded to you. It's another thing those systems don't do that are claims based, is that the reporting typically is terrible and it doesn't look like you. It looks like them. And again, it's really the broker. They're the one that's trying to stay hired. And so they're not that people hardly ever come here, y'all. They spend their time over here. Why? Because a client wants to know this all the time. How are we, tracking, versus our current budget? What do we think we're going to end the year at? What is our renewal projection? Oh, $15.1 million. How? Okay. Well, based on midpoint to midpoint underwriting, and as you can tell, I can be opinionated, but it's hopefully at least an educated opinion because I've been doing this for a long time. And a lot of those analytic systems will go out and say, well, the risk factors on these people using artificial intelligence is whatever. Here's the bottom line, y'all. Reinsurance carriers don't use it. They don't use it. And if it was that accurate, those systems had already been purchased by a major national insurance carrier and they use it on their fully insured block of business. Right? It's not real. Now, I'm not saying it's not nothing. I'm saying that at renewal, the underwriting is going to use midpoint to midpoint underwriting. And that if you are in this business long enough, that's what they're going to use. They're not using an untested artificial intelligence type system. No, not yet. Maybe one day, but that day isn't today. And so until then, this is what they're using. And so guess what? That's what we use in our system because that's what it's the most realistic thing. And another reason they use a lot of those things is because they don't have this. They don't have anything to pull in fixed costs. Now, after spending 3 years and a lot of money to build this, I understand why they don't. This is hard. There's only one way that you do this, and that's trial and error. It takes time. And it's a brutal process because you don't know what you don't know until you roll it out with clients, and then you have to tweak and you have to understand why, every single thing that we have in our system could be entitled ways in which Mark Combs has previously been fired, because that's just the reality of it. is that all of this is based on experience and exists there for a particular reason. But unless you've lived that life, you don't even know what the reason is. And so, but we do have claim analytics. It's important to be able to dig into the providers, see the details of all the providers and what procedures they're doing, what members they're treating, the conditions, the geo map of where these people are located. All this stuff is very important. It's very fancy. It's also good to be able to dig into the chronic conditions to see who has these different chronic conditions. Go down to the member level and see their conditions and procedures and all their chronic compliance. You can see this person has a couple of chronic conditions and their risk scores. These are the protocols of the things protocols are things that they need to do, that they can go do. We separate that out from lifestyle factors and prior health results because this is where population health people end up spending most of their time talking about this. They can come in here and say, as they're meeting with this person, they can say, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print you out a report so that you can know what it is that you need to go do. And so what do you need to do? You need to go get a urine protein level exam. You need to go get a flu vaccine. This is print ready, PDF kind of deal. And so we have that in the system. One of the other things that we have that I'm not sure anybody else has in the analytics system is that both sides, the plan level as well as the claim detail level, share the infrastructure, meaning we're pulling in the claims here, but we still have the reinsurance contract. So we're able to grab this reinsurance contract and know, in this case, it's a 2412. It's got a $250,000 ag spec, and it's a $25,000 spec deductible in this one. Now, if anybody who's been doing this for long enough knows that people that don't do this do not know what these things are. And they certainly don't, haven't built an application so that it's pulling all this data. You have the ability to download all this data. We can download the specific details, export all the claims. Why? So that you can streamline the stop loss claims payments and the claims filing. And so this has all been built in with lots of our different partners, people that work in the reinsurance industry and what have you. So I wanted to give the specific, just quick overview specifically for TPAs. But again, I'd encourage you to go and listen to the perspective of a broker and how brokers are using this type of tool. And of course, if we can be of assistance, please let us know. We'll look forward to speaking with you. Thank you.